Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a fresh new reading. Today's topic is going to be narcissism, and it was a very heavily requested topic, especially since my last upload, which talked about what happens when psychopathic people like world dictators, really evil people, and really narcissistic people go when they die. Now, if you haven't seen that video yet, I suggest you check it out. It was pretty cool. We learned some really interesting things in that one. But this time, we're not going to be looking necessarily at what happens after death, but we are going to be looking at narcissistic people during their life, and if there are spiritual roots to this kind of thing, if there's some kind of spiritual explanation, and if not, then just what Spirit's perspective on this is. I have a list of questions written up, and I think we're about ready to go. All right, so my first question is, do souls choose narcissism for certain lifetimes? Now, this is something I believe based on medium readings I've done with clients and things I've read from other people's experiences, that there are some things that we get to choose prior to coming to Earth. I think some things we don't. Some things are supposed to be out of our control. But there are some things that we choose. Like, for example, maybe some souls get to choose who their parents are. Some souls get to choose what kind of talents and skills they want to have and bring out into the world. Now, some people may not like or agree with this, but some souls do choose severe challenges like physical, mental, or cognitive challenges. Sometimes they will choose that because there are incredibly valuable lessons in experiences related to that kind of thing. So what about narcissism? I know it's not a great thing, not at all, and you'd think that nobody would want to choose this. So I'm just curious, do souls choose narcissism for certain lifetimes? And if so, why? All right, let's put some cards down, let's see. And if so, why? Okay. Right away, Spirit tells me some really interesting stuff. Sometimes it seems like they do. Some souls sometimes get to choose this. It is a really big change from what the soul is maybe used to in some cases. They want to experience parts of the emotional spectrum like sadness, loss, loneliness, despair, because in the spiritual realm, those kind of things don't, I want to say they don't really exist. In the spiritual realm, souls heal and process feelings like this, baggage from lifetimes on Earth or other areas in the universe. But there are some souls that have actually not experienced this kind of thing before. And they want to experience negativity. They want to understand what it's like and what they can learn from it. Some souls maybe haven't had too many Earth lives yet, or maybe they just haven't had too many human lives yet, and maybe the ones that they have been relatively good and joyful. And while these souls are, they express gratitude for the joy they live in spirit, they just for the learning experience, because Earth is a school, right? They just want to know what it's like to have a bad time, more or less. Hang on. So that's one reason. Another reason, okay, sometimes they don't particularly choose narcissism. Some souls do, some souls do not. What happens is a soul might incarnate into circumstances in which they have no control over what's happening to them. So usually stuff that happens in childhood or in the early life when, again, the adults run the house and the kids, they don't necessarily have as much influence or control over what's happening. A lesson was to learn how to regain that control over the self and regain that control over your life. Now, sometimes, like for example, somebody who incarnates into difficult circumstances during their childhood, they might not regain this control over themselves until their adulthood. But the lesson was to learn, oh, hey, I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for what I do. And I need to do the best I can. And then after I've done the best I can, then I can let things go. But the thing with narcissists is once they have any semblance of control, they don't want to release that. They don't want to let it go. For a lot of narcissistic people, they know or they remember what it's like to feel out of control. And they don't want to experience that ever again. Sometimes some narcissistic people feel like they have to control others around them, some of their loved ones. Because I'm hearing the word status quo. A lot of narcissistic people have a sort of status quo that they want to maintain in order for them to be happy, I guess, or comfortable. And sometimes they will justify controlling the people that they're supposed to love and care about. If it means, no, everything's still under control, it's fine because I have control. Do you have any other information on that, Spirit? On, souls choosing narcissism for certain lifetimes? Or was that basically all we needed to know? Well, okay. Another reason, Spirit's like, okay, we'll show you another reason. Because there's a lot of reasons why some souls choose anything before going into a lifetime. We could probably spend half an hour alone on this one question. But Spirit's saying one more reason that some souls do choose narcissism or choose to just be really unpleasant for a time in their life. Or at least choose to have these challenges to overcome, because there are people out there that are like, hey, you know what? I don't like the way I'm being. I need to clean this up. I need to clean up my act. And for some souls, that's what they were supposed to do. For some souls, they need to learn things like generosity. They need to learn how to relinquish control sometimes and let somebody else help, or let somebody else take over, like a project or something like that. Learning how to treat other people with love and respect. Now, in the spirit realm, there is basically nothing but love and respect there. But some souls really love the challenge of coming to Earth with like their empathy, I call it the empathy switch, shut off. And the goal or the challenge is to turn it back on before the end of the lifetime, and be able to show genuine compassion, love, empathy, and care for people, despite mounting challenges that would make it easy for a person not to do that. So sometimes that's a lesson for some souls, but they kind of go off track with it, and they become obsessed with like control and with being right, and they kind of become obsessed with like the 3D earthly kind of side of this challenge. Okay, so next question. Actually, I've had a few people ask me this. Do narcissistic people care at all, on any level, how they affect other people? Do they care at all? They care about how they are affected by their actions and other people's actions and stuff, but do they care at all about how they affect other people? We talked about in our last video similar to this topic that they have to kind of experience their life review, and for some that's very unpleasant because they have to feel the way that they've hurt others. But during the lifetime, Do they care at all how they affect other people? Let's see. I think this is something that would vary from person to person, but Spirit's just showing me something very general. I think that on some level, some of them do. Some narcissists have like their favorite people, or a person that they really idolize or put up on a pedestal. Sometimes that could be a loved one, like maybe a parent has a favorite child, you know, whether it's when you're growing up or when the whole family is grown and you're all adults. One parent could, you know, have like a favorite child, or some people have like a favorite. Well, and normal healthy people are like this too. We all have some people that, you know, we would consider like a best friend, or someone we'd consider much closer to this person than we are to any other person. But with narcissists, they take it like almost to an inappropriate level sometimes. Because there are, like I said, those people that they either really admire, or like they just, for some reason, they don't really want to hurt that person. Spirit's telling me that this is not for all narcissistic people. Some don't care about anyone, but some have like that favorite special person, and they care about what that special favorite person thinks of them. So they would care if they hurt that favorite person's feelings or whatever, because it's like, well, they're not going to like me as much. So they kind of care on a level. It's pretty shallow though. And then I have cards that are saying, like, for a lot of the time, sometimes they don't care, because it's like, well, somebody else was hurt by this, but it made me happy, or it made my circumstances better. The Spirit's reminding me of the saying, you've got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Some narcissists just think, oh, well, I got to break a few hearts, or I got to hurt some people's feelings, or I got to ruin some people's opportunities if it means that I'm taken care of and I'm fine. So a lot of the time, they don't, but sometimes they do care. But a lot of it just has to do with like the way that they are seen. They care about how they affect someone if that certain someone will, if it means that certain someone will leave them or no longer like them or abandon them. Any more information on this, Spirit? And then you're like, yes, some just don't care. Ooh, Spirit showed me something interesting. Some, no, they're actually correcting me. A lot of narcissistic people, a lot of them have very deep emotional or psychological wounds, or just a very overwhelming shadow side to them that they would need to heal and process. And I was hearing from Spirit that some of these people, they don't care enough about themselves truly to care about other people. They think they care about themselves, but arrogance and confidence are not the same thing. Vanity and simply feeling beautiful are not the same thing. So some narcissists, here we go, I'm getting tongue-tied, have such deep-seated either self-hatred, or they've just never really gotten to know who they really are. or for whatever reason, they have stuff that they need to process and work through, but instead of doing that, they're like, no, because that takes work and that doesn't feel good immediately. They would rather suppress it and cover up their self-doubt and insecurity with overconfidence and arrogance, because they think, well, to other people, yeah, they might think I'm kind of a bitch, but at least they'll see that I'm strong and I don't care. Spirit is showing me like a lot of narcissistic people equate strength with this I don't care sort of attitude or way of thinking. All right. So sometimes they care about how they affect people, but it's on a shallow level. It's not necessarily for the people that they've hurt. Okay, so the third question I was going to ask. Now, before I ask it, I will say I'm not an expert on narcissism. I'm not an expert on mental health or personality disorders or anything like that. But somebody who is very, very well educated and has had a lot of experiences with narcissistic people and has become pretty much an expert on narcissism is a lady from the channel Permission to Exist. Now, I don't really know her name. She just goes by PTE. So I'm going to call her PTE from the channel Permission to Exist. I'll put a link to her channel. She talks about the subject so in depth. She answers questions like, why are some of these people the way they are? What kind of mind games do they like to play, or like warning signs that somebody that you know might be like this. Something that she does talk about on her channel is that she kind of believes that narcissism is a form of demonic possession. And I'm not sure if I believe that necessarily, but I thought that she has a very interesting take on it. I might, if I can find the video on her channel, I'll link it somewhere. It was interesting. You have to have an open mind when you listen to it, but it's worth a listen. And I was just curious about that. Are narcissism and demonic possession linked? Because I don't necessarily believe it, but that doesn't mean that Spirit might have, something else different to say about this. So are those two things linked? In some way? Do some spirits, like, dark entities or whatever, do they attach themselves on maybe vulnerable people? Maybe like I was talking about how some people incarnate into circumstances in which they have no control over their life or what happens to them, at least for a while, and maybe they're really vulnerable. And do like dark entities go, ooh, here's somebody we can attach to, and then they attach to that person? Or what? Spirit, what are those things linked? This is kind of interesting, actually. Okay. Well, I'm going to just clarify something here. A lot of this has to do with the vibration that you're resonating at, that a person resonates at. If a person is experiencing really tough times emotionally, mentally, physically, tough times in their circumstances, like I was saying, maybe there's things going on that they can't control. It can cause them to become susceptible to things like mental health issues. They may find themselves fending off things like depression, anxiety, borderline, bipolar. And it's not like they're you know, aware, oh, these things could be coming out, I better fight these off. No, it's more on an inner level. When somebody is going through really tough times and is just in a state where their vibration is constantly low, sometimes they are at risk of developing either a mental health issue or they're just at risk of staying stuck in the low vibration. And Spirit is telling me the word thought forms over and over and over again. Thought forms. That it's almost like the mental image I see is a person with a dark cloud just like around their head. Thought forms with words like, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I need to be in control, I need to control everything, I need to be perfect, I cannot make mistakes, I can't let other people make mistakes. And then like the thought forms start to grow, like, I have the control, that which, you know, means like, oh, I must be superior, or like, there's nothing wrong with me. Anyway, Spirit's saying that it's almost like your aura or that energetic body just takes those negative thought forms and vibrations and runs with them. And I'm not seeing any mental images, like not seeing like any literal demons or anything. But some people can attribute those things, maybe. Maybe that could be it. Spirit shows me that the things, and this is just something that a lot of us already know, but the things that we constantly, well, I guess some of our circumstances can influence the way we think, the way we feel. But aside from that, the things that we constantly think about will affect our vibration. It will affect the way that we feel emotionally. The things we constantly talk about think about become things that maybe we talk about. And maybe the things that we constantly think about or talk about become things that we do. And so the energy attaches, it's like akin to demonic possession, but I don't think it's like literally a demonic possession. Now Spirit's saying that some people are able to receive professional help. Some people get therapy. Some people maybe go to a doctor or another healthcare provider and are able to sort of put this situation to rest. Or at least put some of the darkness to rest. Now, Spirit's saying, okay, here's 6 of Wands, success, victory. Some people successfully come out of that vibration, you know. And when you're around a narcissistic person, a lot of times, especially if you're empathic in any way, you can get a feel of their energy. Sometimes you feel absolutely drained after being around a narcissistic person. Because it's almost like they've latched onto your energy and have just like siphoned it out from you. But sometimes some people, well, I had that card there, like I was saying, sometimes like that darkness gets put to rest, and sometimes some people are able to get out from under that kind of oppression and are able to learn how to love themselves and be more caring to others. And then some people, they like being stuck in that vibration because in some cases, they don't really want to become accountable, because it's like, well, then that means I have to feel bad when I do something. And they always justify the things that they do and the ways that they hurt people by saying, oh, I had to do this. So sometimes they like to get stuck in that vibration. So I don't know, it's got a similar energy to demonic possession, but it may not be possession in the way that it's like shown in media or the way people often think about it. Okay, now what are the common lessons that narcissistic people learn when they cross over? Because, okay, we already did kind of talk about it. Lessons that some of them were supposed to learn included things like humility, compassion, knowing when to back down and let someone else help, learning how to be generous and helpful to others, learning how to love others, learning how to accept love. Okay, but what are things that they usually end up learning by the time they cross over? I mentioned it in a different video, like that I had mentioned way earlier, that they do have to experience the life review when they cross over just like everybody else. And so sometimes they learn the way that they made other people feel, for better or for worse. If it's a narcissist, usually it's for worse. Anyways, they learn about how their words and their thoughts create their reality and their decisions, how they were sort of in control of their life all along, and how once they became old enough to be responsible for themselves and their actions and what they did, during life, they don't always learn this or become aware of how their thoughts and words create. They learn about that when they cross over. They learn another thing. Hierophant, sometimes I think of this card as unity. They learned that they actually were out of line with their spiritual self. And sometimes if the lesson that the soul wanted to learn initially was going into a bad situation, overcoming it, and creating a beautiful life, and healing, and doing the best you can from then on, okay, some people don't make those improvements, and the soul wanted to. They learned that they kind of fell out of unity with their initial purpose or some of the things they wanted to do in that lifetime. Another thing they learn is when to keep something to themselves, when they didn't have to say something, when they didn't have to express. Now, I believe in expressing and processing every emotion, but there are some times when it's inappropriate to do so and you have to wait until later. And there's some ways in which it is inappropriate to do so because it hurts yourself or someone else. Something that a lot of narcissists learn is like not everything had to be said. Not everything has to be said. Not everything has to be expressed out loud or publicly or to that person. Some things, but not everything. And now Spirit's showing me, or actually they're telling me and showing me the word backhanded compliment. And I don't want to offend anybody with like the example that Spirit just plopped into my head. But an example that Spirit just plopped into my head of a backhanded compliment was, oh, that dress looks really nice on you considering you've gained weight. Okay? Or like, oh, how's that diet coming along? With that like doubtful expression. Or now another thing Spirit's showing me, to me, I understand it as the 2-second rule. If there's something going on with someone, something stuck in their hair or on their teeth or on their clothes or something that they can fix in 2 seconds, then point it out politely. But if there's something that they cannot fix, like for example, some people can't fix the way their teeth look. Some people can't fix how big or small their eyes are. Some people they can't fix that, maybe they have a skin tag or they have like acne, or maybe there's something going on. Maybe they just don't have the best haircut and they're waiting to grow it out just a little bit so they can get it trimmed and fixed nice. There's some things that do not need to be pointed out. The biggest thing being Spirit is plopping this into my head being, you're short or you're fat. Things that either cannot be fixed or cannot be fixed right away, do not point those out. That's something that narcissists, they learn on the other side. That's something they learn. What's something that the victims of narcissists learn? What is something that the victims of a narcissistic person or the victims of narcissistic abuse learn? What's something Like, what's a soul lesson? Or just, I don't know, Spirit, just tell me whatever. What did they learn? Soul lessons, life lessons, whatever. What did they learn? Okay, so first of all, okay, Spirit's saying some people learn what we would maybe consider a bad lesson. Some people learn, okay, not to trust that particular person. All right, that's a good lesson. But a bad lesson would be some people learn not to trust anyone ever at all. Some victims of narcissistic abuse, anyways, what they learn, and a lot of them develop, their intuition becomes stronger. They develop a stronger gut feeling when they're around people or when they meet new people. Whether somebody feels okay or somebody gives them like a ugh feeling. They learn that narcissistic people feed on pettiness, conflict, and strife. And something that victims usually come to learn is that, and I don't really like using the word victims, I'm sorry, I should use a better word, but anyway, people who have dealt with this kind of abuse, they learn that the narcissist, they feed off of it, that person is not ever going to change. Not usually. Some maybe realize, oh my God, I'm a horrible person, I need to clean up my act. A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't. Because that's too much work, or it's just easier to believe that they're perfect. Anyways, people who've had to deal with narcissists, just they learn for the most part. Those people don't change because they don't want to. Now, I guess I also okay. A neutral lesson. I don't know why the word neutral comes in. A neutral lesson. Now, you know, when narcissists cross over and they learn times where they should have kept their mouth shut. Some people who've had to deal with narcissists end up learning to become a little more guarded, to keep some of their ideas, thoughts, passions, words, feelings to themselves. But, okay, so that's like a neutral lesson, because sometimes it's okay to express yourself. And Spirit never wants anybody to go from being confident to being just totally inhibited. A good lesson is that people who've had to deal with narcissists actually learn a lot about maturity, and this helps them to mature as well. Because they'll usually realize that the way that person treated them was not right and was not okay. And this doesn't always happen, but sometimes they get a different perspective on that narcissist and go, that person is actually really like sick and sad and messed up inside. Instead of, this person is scary and they can destroy me. They kind of have a different perspective. Another thing, this is a good lesson. How to avoid conflict. Now, sometimes you do need to confront somebody about some things. Okay, there are times where it can't be avoided, but there are a lot of times where it can. Because a person who's had to deal with narcissistic abuse will value peace and harmony over dysfunction and chaos. They learn how to value harmony for the most part. There are some people that still have to do some healing and inner work, but a lot of people come to that conclusion that, you know what, my inner peace and the peace in my home is more important to me than my connection to that person. Spirit says that sometimes that's a good lesson. Okay, so let's say now the narcissistic person died and crossed over and they went through whatever life review, healing process, and inner work on the spiritual realm. What are their next lifetimes usually like after a narcissistic lifetime? What are their next lifetimes like usually after a lifetime as a narcissistic person? Do they carry that into their next life and act that way all over again? Spirit says not necessarily, because that might hinder their progress. They'll get stuck in a loop of lifetimes where of self-serving behavior and disregard for others. That does not help them to grow. Sometimes they may not incarnate as a narcissistic person again, but they might have healing work from that lifetime that they can maybe only do in a different lifetime because they have a different type of personality, or they have different type of mental health, you know. They have to do a lot of healing work on the other side before they can come back. And this is because when they do come back, Spirit wants to offer them a lifetime where they have good relationships to people. I just pick up, they won't usually allow a soul to have, like, to incarnate as a narcissist once and then in the next lifetime do it again. They want that soul to heal and grow into, I talked about it in the last video, this cleansing process, and the image Spirit showed me was somebody roasting a marshmallow. Obviously you take the marshmallow off the stick and it's still covered in goop. So what they do is they put the stick back in the fire so that the stuck on marshmallow goop will burn off and melt off, okay? A narcissistic person's soul needs to go through a similar process before they can come back. It just melts off that energetic goop that came from that lifetime. And Spirit will usually offer them a lifetime where they have good connections to people, and it can help them. Some people like to, do things like a past life regression. If they have issues in life that can't be attributed to anything going on in that present lifetime, some things are just leftover shadow from different lifetimes. And because we might be in better health or have access to more resources, we're able to use like the new lifetime to help heal things from the old. I'm actually really surprised about that. But Spirit says, like, justice to us is sometimes looks different to what Spirit actually considers justice to be. So when it comes to a narcissistic person crossing over and going into another life, to us, we'd think, oh, justified that they come into a life where they just get bullied and shit on and had, the world pretty much take its revenge on them. But Spirit says, no, that's not actually just. What is just is that this person crosses over. They experience everything during the life review. They come to that understanding of, okay, this is, everything I did there was wrong. This is not who I truly am. They remember who they truly are, which is love and light. And they heal from the issues that led to that narcissism. Like I said, that energetic goop is burnt off and melted off and purified, and they go to a lifetime where they can be really good to other people. Spirit considers that to be a just solution. I find that fascinating. But anyways, I hope this video helped you out. Thank you to everybody who suggested this topic. I know this video ran long. We're at like 40 minutes. I was trying to keep this to under 15. There's no way. This topic was too fascinating. So anyways, if you got to the end of the video, thank you so much. And you guys, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel, Sienna Rose Metaphysical. Hit that notifications bell and you'll get notified when I make a post or a video like this. I make a post in the community tab or I go live. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next upload.